Good evening and welcome to Woodstock City Council. It is Thursday, April the 19th, 2018. And I hear that there might be a Leafs game on tonight, but Council has been eagerly anticipating that and have read all of these reports. So we'll get right down to work. The minutes of the previous meeting. Oh, any disclosure of conflict of interest? Councillor Talbot?
I have one regarding ZN 81725. Hired them.
Okay, thank you. Any disclosure of new business? Matters arising from the minutes? The minutes from April 5th meeting. Councillor Lauder?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Accioni that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Woodstock City Council held on April the 5th, 2018 be adopted.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item is additions to the agenda. Councillor Lauder?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Accioni that the following item be added to the agenda. Delegation 7A, Paul Plant, Boulevard Parking, 12 Brock Street.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. And our first item is the delegation. Mr. Plant. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been a while since I've been on this side of the podium, going back to way back, 12 some odd years, 13. Thank you for taking the time. I promise I won't be as long as I asked for or as I was given. As you're aware, I'm here on behalf of Wayne Wright, who's back there from Bennett Signs. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the details because they were basically in my notes that I'd sent in to the clerk, and I believe you have them. But just touching on it, I think there's a couple of issues here that we should touch on, just to clarify some things, both towards this issue and I think some other issues that should be looked at in the future, which I will talk about at the end. The report refers to the fact that there's a garage. There's a garage door, but there's no garage. I think the whole building is basically with a garage, but the whole building is used for the design, fabrication, and administration of the business. So there's no place inside of the building for a garage. A significant portion of Bennett Signs business is I don't know if you do wraps, but certainly vans and trailers doing the lettering on them, and he does that in the space we're talking about, because doing it somewhere else would be kind of awkward, running up and down the street with the materials he has to use and when they have to make changes and so on. The second area I want to touch on is that I have not found that there was a bylaw designating this as an alley. No one's told me there was. However, there is an existing sign on the west end, on the east end of the alley, facing, so if you're going west, you would see it. This says "Watch for Pedestrians." I've also been told, and she's out of the country and not reachable at the moment, but a former employee of Sentinel Review strongly believes that there was a one-way sign going west on there at one point in time on their building, which is no longer there. We touched on the garage. The other issue, and there was a mistake in what I sent you, so I don't want to get in trouble with the Brotherhood. The building's owned by the Masons, not by the Shriners. And the Masons use it, and I think the Shriners sometimes use it for things. So there's a fair amount of activity, particularly at night. And as in a lot of organizations, the people that belong are not getting any younger, and this allows some of the ones that have more difficulty getting around more immediate access to the building at night when Wayne's not there or nobody else is using the parking space. Over the years, and I'm going back to 81, 82, early 80s, and going back to the mall fiasco, the city has spent a lot of time trying to protect, enhance, and maintain a viable downtown, and they spent countless hours and many dollars to that end. We acknowledge that there must be rules and regulations regarding the supply of municipal services and infrastructure in the vital areas of the city. So you have to have some rules. I understand that. But it also must be kept in mind that the rules and regulations can have a negative impact, in some cases quite extreme, on core area business, to the point it could result in a loss of revenue, and then the ultimate result of that could be the loss of the business. And they're not lined up to come downtown at the moment. And it also has to remember that the underlying road transportation grid and infrastructure that's currently in place, a lot of it was started, maybe some of it's been replaced, not all of it, but started when you still use horses. So cars and percolators and all that stuff wasn't even thought of. This helps if you go left to right, not right to left, not in Japan. So I'd like to put, there's the second issue that it's not part of this application, but it's something that I was made aware of, is that they're not the only business that's has issue with relative to our regulations and enforcement of same. Doesn't mean there shouldn't be regulations, but sometimes there should be creativity and flexibility. Gallery Cinemas is a key service provider in the downtown, and once again, and your development commissioner can attest to it, there's a lot of time and then ultimately money in one particular payment was about $221,000 to take out some permafrost and put in some gravel to get them here. And that was a major coup at that point. And now, when they opened, movies were shorter. Now you've got a lot of movies that are 2 hours plus. So particularly in matinees, people are coming out and they get a ticket. So where do you go when you get a ticket? You go back to the show and you complain. Show can't do anything about it. Then the standard response, and given my years on as a city staff and on council, everybody always complains, and if they get a ticket downtown, I'm not shopping downtown anymore, I'm going to go to London. And London has bigger facilities than Gallery Cinemas, but Gallery, compared to what we had before, is like you can't compare it to what we had before. I think what I'm getting at here is I'm sure there are other instances of people that have some issues with parking and are not willing to come forward for a number of reasons. And I think that's causing some problems in terms of lost business, both existing business and I think future opportunities. If we don't have a good handle on what we have, which I believe we do, but on what we can do and what we're willing to do and how fast we can do it, there's all sorts of opportunities that we lost. When I first came here and working on, we had industrial land, but it wasn't serviced. Well, people would come in and, not serviced, we don't want it. And then council would say, well, we'll service it once they can. Well, there's no guarantee how fast you can service it. You might find an Indian arrowhead, there might be PCBs that somebody dumped on it. And it's the same with downtown. If you're looking at a Fanshawe College or Ottawa University or some other type of development, institutional, commercial, well, we will work with you on parking. Sometimes, unless there's something in place as a policy or a strategy or better budget reserves, you're not going to be able to win that argument very well. So I took that into consideration when I was sort of putting forward some of my thoughts. And I understand that there's another motion, a revised motion in place that basically says to pursue staff to pursue it. So really, the second one that I made is basically that. I did throw in some stuff before because, again, I realized that there has to be some rules and regulations, and also we always have to be concerned about precedent because somebody's always going to come along and say, you did this for Fred, why aren't you going to do it for me? Or you did this for Wayne, why aren't you going to do it for someone else? So I looked at some things that I thought were practical in some written messages with the city engineer. It's quite funny. It started off with, really? He did point out that, the more regulations and rules they have, there's more to enforce, and I understand that. So that first thing was just some thoughts, but it may apply because we do have a lot of alleys in the city, and some are not through, some are twisted and turned like the one behind the gallery theaters. I think the garbage trucks have to back into that one, as I may recall. So really the only one that I really want to go on, if you're willing to go ahead with that revised motion, is that the third thought they put down, and I amended it a bit to try to be a little clearer, I feel the city should establish a downtown parking policy review committee. I know you reviewed parking 3 years ago, but I'm looking at the standpoint of making it part of your development strategy, of your core strategy, not how we're going to keep people and cars moving, not the regulations of it. So I think you need to look at your existing policies, the existing budgets, and I know there's money for parking, but not a huge amount, given what parking costs these days. The standards and regulations we have relative to space size and various other things, and enforcement of all these. And as I said earlier, I assume the public and private parking inventory is well taken care of. But I'm thinking this effort of this subcommittee or whatever it is should be based on looking at things that are a detriment to the opening and developing and operation of institutional, commercial, and residential facilities in the city. What do we have now that is not conducive to further development? Either changes to existing facilities, or if you get really lucky, a college or a regional office of some government facility, whatever you happen to get. Or one of the things that happened in the past is I strongly believe that we should have made an effort to make sure the Children's Aid Society was down here as opposed to where it is, because it creates traffic and so on. But that's water under the bridge. But maybe something could have been done with that. And if there is some sort of a working group put together, it should have representatives of the development department, engineering department, planning, the BIA, and major property owners from the area. The mandate of this committee should be to recognize that this undertaking must be economic driven, not starting with the policy and what we own. It's got to be, what's it take to make sense here? When we were going through the issues with some of the older buildings, we had a couple of councillors that thought that, for instance, the Market building was worth a lot of money. It was worth nothing because there was no rental income. So you got to look at this whole parking thing from an economic standpoint. And I think that it should be economic driven and not planning driven. Planning comes in, as opposed to planning be first and then making it work. Let's find what makes it economically viable, what makes sense, and then put the planning in place to work around it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, I'll mention to the public that there's no resolution required on this item. The first part we will be dealing with when we get to report B1. And the second part, we value your comments and advice as we do with all citizens here in the city. And this council, of course, during the 2018 budget has approved our study for the downtown, which will include all of these various types of items. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for input from the public going forward, and we'll move on. So next is consideration of planning reports. And Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the application for zone change file number ZNA 17-25 submitted by Deb and Don Clem for lands described as Part Lot 7, Plan 47 in the City of Woodstock, whereby the lands are to propose to be rezoned from Central Commercial Zone C5 to Entrepreneurial District Zone C3 to ensure the zoning of the lands is consistent with the lot to be enlarged, to which the lands will be added, and further that no comments were received from the public regarding this application.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Petter.
Thank you.
Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder did a very good job of explaining the report, and it's a pretty simple, straightforward one, so I won't go into too much detail. But basically, the application for a zone change is to rezone this strip of land. That was done through a recent consent application that was approved by the Land Division Committee on March 1st. And the zone change is an attempt to satisfy one of the conditions that the severance application or the severance approval is contingent upon. Planning staff are of the opinion that the zone change to rezone the lands from C5 to C3 is consistent with both the PPS and the OP, as it'll allow the existing uses to continue, as the lot addition is simply just to expand a driveway. and so both of the uses, both residential and commercial uses, will be able to continue, and staff are supportive of this application. Both the enlarged and the retained lots meet the minimum, or meet the relevant provisions of both the C3 and the C5 zones, and therefore we would recommend that the planning application be given favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item on planning, Councillor Petter.
Move that Woodstock City Council advise County Council that they support the application of 259-3636 Ontario Inc. to create a draft plan of subdivision for lands described as part of lots 15, 17, and 18, Plan 1600 in the City of Woodstock, subject to the following conditions of draft approval 1 through 18.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Ms. Hassler.
Thank you. This application for a subdivision is located on the west side of Lampman Place, north of Juliana Drive. And it was submitted by Ontario Company 2593636. The application is to create a single residential block, which will facilitate the development of a 6-unit street-fronting townhouse development. The proposed development will have direct access and frontage to Lampman Place, which was extended by the city in 2016, which it also included the extension of the municipal sanitary and storm sewers, as well as the water main. It's the opinion of the planning department that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, as the proposed development is a form of infilling and promotes intensification. It's also an efficient use of existing lands in a settlement and existing municipal services and infrastructure. Staff are also satisfied that the application is consistent with the official plan policies with respect to medium density residential uses. The application is in keeping with the density that's prescribed for the medium density residential areas. And it's also considered to be compatible with the surrounding development in the area. Staff are also satisfied that there will be little traffic impact as the development is smaller in nature, and also that the Lampman Street has direct access to Juliana Drive. Staff are also satisfied that the existing zoning, which is R3-25, which permits street fronting townhouses, staff are satisfied that the proposed development can meet the relevant zoning provisions as well on this site. The applicant has also indicated that in the future they will most likely make the lot separately, the units separately conveyable by way of part lot control. And at such time, staff will be recommending that they establish private easements to allow access to the rear yards. In light of the foregoing, it's the opinion of our department that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the official plan, and is in keeping with the zoning.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you, Ms. Hassler. Next item on our agenda is the request for boulevard parking. Councillor Talbot.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a boulevard parking agreement for a portion of the boulevard fronting 12 Brock Street.
Thank you.
It says Brock Street in the thing, so it should be Brock. It's a typing error.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate Mr. Plant's explanation tonight, but I can go back. I remember it back when it was Bennett Signs and George Bennett. That business has been in existence and have been operating out of that site for a very, very long time, and never seems to have caused any problems. And in discussion with Mr. Wright, who is the owner of the business presently, in talking about how the cars are parked, sometimes that there is an opportunity to park a little bit farther back so as not obstructing the site triangle at the end of the driveway. There were some suggestions in Mr. Plant's submission that we might want to look at in the future. I was trying to remember back, and I believe I remember when it was a one-way alley at one time. So those are all things that's not heavily traffic. I mean, we do have a lot of people that park on the curb there, talking about couriers, the security agency that brings cash to the two financial institutions that are there. It just seems to be a great stopping place as well. But for all the times that I've been familiar with that particular spot, it's never been a problem, and I think that we should allow them to continue.
Thank you. Further discussion? I'll add that was the very first apartment with the wife when we came home from the honeymoon. Many stairs, though, so we're quite familiar with that area. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the proposed land sale of 11.4 acres on Bisham Park. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with Tejong Management, Inc., and that the necessary bylaw be read. And further, that Woodstock City Council authorize Tejong Management to act as an agent for the purpose of a zone change on the subject site.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the Southwest Oxford Boundary Adjustment Committee report. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the Southwest Oxford Boundary Adjustment Committee report as information.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Petter. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item on the agenda is the Community Grant Program. Councillor Petter.
I move that in accordance with Community Grants Policy GA003, Woodstock City Council allocates the following grants for the year 2018. 7th Woodstock Scouts, $7,000. Big Brothers and Big Sisters, $8,000. Calvary Church, $3,000. Lawn Bowling Club, $2,000. Oxford County Branch of Ontario Genealogical Society, $2,000. Rotary Club of Woodstock Music Festival, $5,000. Southgate Center, $3,000. Theater Woodstock, $3,250. WDDS, $8,000. Why Not Us, $2,500. Woodstock Agricultural Society, $7,500. Woodstock Curling Club, $5,000. Woodstock Dragon Boat, $2,000. Woodstock Minor Ball Association, $15,000. Woodstock Triathlon Club, $1,000. And YMCA, $9,000.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Talbot. Discussion? Councillor Petter.
Just like the comment, I sit on this committee, and the enormous work that these people do that handle this job very seriously. This binder is, they show up having read and analyzed this 2-inch thick binder to make sure that they're making good decisions on the community and the events in town. I just want to thank Ethel and Lori, Len and Carol and Chris and all the applicants that put in every year. We have another session in September. This year, I think the total amount was $83,000 or something that we gave away. We had $151,000, but we still have another session to go in September. So for people that didn't put in, for the organizations, please remember there's another session in September. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Yes, thank you through the mayor to Councillor Petter. Just for people's, so that they know, the Calvary Church, because normally we wouldn't give to a church, but if you could just explain that, and also to the one for Southgate Center, in case there's ever any questions come up about those two, I wouldn't mind answers. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Lauder, the Southgate Center was for the Street Fest that they took over from the BIA. They have a shortfall, and we were happy to help them with the Street Fest. The Calvary Church was the Easter egg hunt that the city partners with Calvary Church, and even though we're giving it away after the Easter egg hunt, they're very appreciative of the money. It goes for all the expenses that they incur for that program.
Thank you. I think that's just good explanation for anyone that might question those. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item on the agenda is bylaws. Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Accioni that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. 9196-18, a bylaw to provide for the sale of certain lands owned by the Corporation of City of Woodstock to De Jong Management, Inc.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Accioni that the following bylaws be given third and final reading. 9196-18.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And tonight we'll start with Councillor Accioni.
Well, thank you very much, Your Honor. I wasn't prepared for that. Don't know if that's ever happened. Thank you very much. Yes, happy birthday, sweetheart. It is my wife's birthday today, and we are going to be meeting here very shortly. I'll message her now saying we're done. So, a couple of things. I did have the privilege to attend the Suprema Canada's groundbreaking. Wanted to make a point, of course, welcome them to the city. But in speaking with them after the event itself, they were very pleased with the city of Woodstock and all its staff. So I just wanted to pass that along and say thank you very much to Len and his team. They really couldn't say enough good about them, so I wanted to make sure everybody knew that. So thank you very much. They were quite pleased with city staff and made a point multiple times of saying that. So thank you. Victoria Day is a little bit away, but tomorrow is the deadline for the Victoria Day Parade. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Make sure you get information into City Hall tomorrow. Brad or Ann would certainly get your information and get you in the parade. Spring cleanup is also coming up at Southside this Saturday, 8 a.m. Meet at the Public Works in the park itself. Correct, 8 a.m., Brian? Yeah, I'm getting the nod of the head. They are going to be supplying gloves and bags, so just come. And students, you can get hours, so please take advantage of that. What's up, or what's on Woodstock Magazine? Don't forget, keep it handy. Lots of good information in here. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you at Woodstock Day, April 29th, which happens to be my daughter's birthday. We're going to be down in Toronto at the Blue Jays game at Woodstock Day, so excited to see that. And go Leafs go. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Get going. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Just a couple of announcements. The Fanshawe Choir is performing at Dundas Street United Church on Saturday, May the 5th, and their theme is Spring Love Songs. And on May the 6th is the MS Walk, just on the Sunday. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Petter.
In the interest of being quick, the Leafs, I know Sandy wants to see the Leafs, so we got to get out of here. I just want to bring up one thing. This is the last time I'm going to say the word snow. The snow, I assure everyone, will be gone after this weekend, but along with that comes the bikes, the pedestrians, the motorcycles, you name it. So please be very careful when you're driving, because with this late spring, they're going to be chomping at the bit to get out on the road, so be careful. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Worship. I think I'm going to share with everybody what a fellow employee shared with me today, that today is the 96th day of January. And we're all sick of it, so let's hope that Councillor Petter is correct. And I want to thank the city staff. I had great comments from some citizens regarding the streets being cleared. I mean, the major street routes, especially with the weather, how it was. So kudos to them for the good job and being on call. Also want to congratulate Shelley Green on a very successful event, Gems in Java. I was there the Friday night, and I know the event on Saturday might have experienced a little bit lower turnout due to the weather, but Shelley and her over 100 volunteers, they do a great job, and it's always a good evening. Just want to invite everybody to come to McDonald's on Norwich Ave on May the 2nd at 10 o'clock. I'm working. It's McHappy Day, so come out and support the community and Ronald McDonald. House. And just want to remind everybody about the 11th annual Oxford Studio Tours. It's running on May 5th and 6th, and going through the brochure, there is some great stuff out there. So if you have the time, take the opportunity to go out through the community and see how talented, what talent we have in this community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And this week it is Volunteer Appreciation Week. It's an internationally recognized week, and a week is not enough time in the friendly city to get all of the thank yous and messages out to all of our different community partners. When you look at all of the different valuable contributions that are being made in areas in our community through 150 different partner organizations. We heard earlier about the grants given out. So many of those applications have been filled out by volunteers. They were approved by a volunteer committee. Things like that Easter egg hunt that was put on, and 2,000 children with smiles on their faces, 50 different volunteers from a church that all have a background check and vulnerable sector check. This is an amazing community, so thanks and hats off to everybody. It is still Cancer Month right now, and people are still donning their daffodils. And one of the things today with the windy day, my hair's a little bit of a mess, so I'll put in that plug again that this will be cleaned up at the Cancer Relay in June. So in the coming days, you'll see my ask of the community to come forward to help sponsor the cut, and the money will go towards the WIG as well as cancer research. And you can join us there in June if you're one of the big donors to this campaign, along with the survivors, and have those scissors in your hand to cut my hair. Now, we also have the Sikh community here in Woodstock they have been growing over the years. We have so many valuable members that have been here for 20, 30, 40 years, running different businesses and taking part in the community, and they've been great ambassadors for the friendly city, telling their friends and relatives. And we've seen an explosive growth in the recent years. And on Saturday, April 28th, there's a free community barbecue with arts and entertainment where you can come and learn a little bit about the Sikh religion and our new community that's here in Woodstock. We have the Junior Mayor Days coming up, so these are the fun things I get to do. Some of the great fundraising that's gone on in the community. We'll have some young individuals where I get to go to their school, explain what city governance and municipal politics and how it fits into our democracy here in Ontario and in Canada, and then put them on the pedestal with the chains on. I call it a day off, but it's a great day. I get to take them from that school, then to the police station, the fire department, the library, to our conservation area, to the county administration, here to the city, and so many of our different partners within the community. Maybe a little lunch at the Southgate Center. So I'm really looking forward to those Junior Mayor Days, and I won't say their names. They know who they are already. On May 16th, there will be another town hall bus ride for the mayor where you can come out and ask questions about what's going on in the city. And if you don't feel so much like asking questions, you can get your family to find the nearest bus stop and hop on the bus and learn the transit, because Woodstock Spider-Man and the superheroes will be there again. I get to answer a few questions, but those pictures that people get of all ages with those superheroes riding the buses is pretty priceless. Now, we heard tonight about the land sale. We heard tonight about the Suprema groundbreaking. We also were able to celebrate with Heidmech their 40th anniversary here in the friendly city, founded by an immigrant who escaped from the former Soviet Union at the point of a gun with his family, and created right here in this city a business that is now internationally recognized and prospering. And to be able to be there to hear of them and their exploration of new markets in South Korea and Japan and Australia, because of some of the great trade initiatives that have been underway recently. What a privilege to have them here in the friendly city. And we know that economic development will be very busy over the coming months, looking at other lands and other companies and other deals, and they'll need to get some of those things taken care of before we enter that silly season where we are lame duck as a council. Of course, this year, everyone knows we have 2 elections coming up, a provincial election in June on the 7th. We also have the municipal election coming up in the fall. And tonight I'll give a public service announcement for our clerk and all of the clerks here in Oxford County. Anyone who is interested in being a candidate in the next election this fall, they best be at the Oxford County Administration Building on April 26th at 6 p.m. All of the clerks will be explaining all of the new rules, not just for candidates, but also for third-party advertisers. And that's about all I have to say about cleaning up in government, because Councillor Accioni has already talked about the cleaning up of the parks. But we have many, many things going on throughout the entire community, so stay in touch, follow our calendars, the city website, the What's on Woodstock magazine, and I now look forward to a motion to adjourn. Councillor Petter, seconded by Councillor Accioni. All those in favor? We are adjourned.